declare and decree in this season, I will submit to the voice of the Holy Spirit calling my name. I am walking in the fullness of His purpose and plan for me and my life. It is my... Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, She Emerged, the Manifestation of Me, with me, your host, S.H.E. Thanks for joining me once again. I thank you all for your continued support and listening to the podcast and the sales of the book. I'm super excited about what is to come and just your positive messages and all the feedback I'm getting. Thank you. I am definitely grateful. It is a blessing to be able to share my story. And it is a blessing on how it's being received. As you all know, the book was the purpose and foundation for this podcast. And so I'm excited that it's finally released, both books, the main book, and then I also released an accompanying journal, guided journal, She Emerged, the guided journal. And it's full of some really good prompts and questions and challenges to help you on your journey from trauma to triumph. So, this is, episode 12 of season 2. And that is 24 conversations that I've had with you all. And I think that's pretty dope. So, today I want to talk about, so the first chapter in my book is called My Mama, My Daddy, and Me. And it more or less focuses on some things that they've gone through in my early childhood. The fact that they were young. My mother was 18 when she had me. She walked across the stage to get her high school diploma, very much pregnant, and then had me a few weeks later. And my father had to be no more than 19. And so that's a lot. And as I've gotten older, I am able to see them in a different light and extend to them a different level of grace that I didn't know in my youth. Experience is definitely the best teacher. And so like my mom, I had my first child when I was 20. I was pregnant at 19. I had her at 20. And now that I've gone through the experience of doing that, I have a different understanding of her situation. There's a different level of respect and appreciation that I have for both their journeys because they were young, as were myself and my eldest child's father. We were very young, having children, and how that can affect your life choices, some for the good, some for the bad. And so on this journey, and I've spoken about this before, as we discuss breaking generational curses and addressing certain generational traits that are negative, what I want to get away from, at least on my platform, is bashing those that have come before us, and maybe us trying to understand where they were coming from and what led them to make some of those decisions that they make. So today I want to talk with you about, how our childhood defenses can hurt us as adults. I speak about that a lot in my book. My book, if you're not familiar with it, is basically highlighting. It's about my life, but it's the highlight reel, as I call it. The most traumatic and pivotal moments that influence my character and my evolution as a woman, as a young girl, as an adolescent, as a woman. My formative years. And so I wanted to start here with this. conversation, because what we receive as a child will reflect in our lives, as we evolve, those things, those traits will evolve with us if not properly dealt with. And for most of us, they were not properly dealt with because, as I spoke about in my previous podcast, mental health was never a priority. It was a shame. It was looked at as uh, a disability and not something to be discussed. And those things play into and contribute to our mental health. And so I'm glad that in this day and time that um, we are that discussion. It's more okay to have that discussion because it's necessary. We are seeing more and more children um, committing suicide, and so I'm glad that this conversation is one to be had and a welcomed one. So, um, you know, our role models are past. They shape who we become, and they can shape who we become, and especially if not addressed properly. Uh, and the disadvantage of that is it they become weights. We're our highs and lows mold us into who we are. Um, and when we're young, your brain is just developing and growing. Um, you know, you've not yet reached your peak, so you absorb everything at a different rate. And perception is reception. So some things that may not have been intended to be received in a negative light, it's how that person receives it. It's their perception of the words coming out of your mouth is what they're going to is going to dictate their reception of your point, no matter what you say. Perception is the reception, and that's the reality of it. And that's not just for words, that is for people, places, and things. If you have a certain purview of an environment, of a certain place, that's how you're going to receive that place, good, bad, or indifferent. And children are definitely perceive and receive things very different. Their minds just aren't where they need to be able to critically think in a way that we are as adults. And so, as children, a lot of things that went on around us, we perceived and received it and absorbed it, and it affected us. Um, there's power in everything, from an unheard cry, your facial expressions, they can all have a heavy impact on a child. Somebody could be speaking to you, but their face, like I'm a person who speaks with my face. I cannot open my mouth. But if you say something to me, the reaction will be written all over my face. Now I'm working on that because that can be good and bad. It's bad. But as children, they read that. They read the room. You can hug them with a big smile on your face that you think you're doing, but the way they perceive that smile and receive it could be totally different. And so these things have an impact on how they evolve and how their psyche evolves. Positive interactions in our development can lead us to develop better self-esteem in certain areas. Negative ones can impact it and it becomes heavy. And in our day when we were coming up, those things were like pushed to the side, like, oh, they'll get over it. No, a lot of us did not get over it. A lot of us hoarded and carried that, and it affected us down the line throughout. I've spoken about this before. I have triggers, which is why this journey is an ongoing journey, because there are some words that you can't speak to me. There are some words to this day that will shake me. And they bother me because they hurt so much. They were so weighty as a child. And I had to really take the time to work through those things because in my adult life, they didn't mean the same thing. But because that's the way I received them so early on, it bothered me, even when people didn't mean it that way. And so that's what I mean with perception is reception. Uh, you know, then we go through this thing and we grow up, and again, I've done it, and guilty of, not guilty of it, but I've practiced it. And we are trying to develop characteristics. We embody characteristics that we feel like would have helped our parents, would have saved our parents, would have gotten them, would have helped them to be better parents, would have sent them in a different direction, maybe bettered their lives. But that's not true. Their circumstances and situations were different. So although those characteristics may work for us now in this time, in this era, they may not have worked back then. Their circumstances were different. They had a different set of hurdles. They had a different set of issues that just were not ours to have. And so as we grow and we get, older, we decide that I'm going to be better than my parents because they didn't do XYZ, so I'm going to do it this way because that's how that should have been done, and maybe I would have turned out better. But maybe you wouldn't have. Because again, what applies today in this day and age, the freedoms, the liberties, the culture, it would not have applied then. And I find that a lot of my healing is laden in that. Because I spent a good portion of my life trying to outrun what I felt were my parents' missteps. And if I could just do it a little better, if I could just, love me more, then I could be better than them. And that consumed me. Literally trying to outrun my past instead of embracing the missteps, learning from them, and then evolving from them. You can always take a skill and grow it. So you can always take a situation and grow from it. So I go in the grocery store and I buy all the wrong things because nobody taught me really how to grocery shop. And I get all this stuff home and some of it just doesn't make sense. I done bought peanut butter without the jelly. I done bought tuna without mayonnaise or, a dressing or something to put in it. And so that misstep, I can evolve from that because I know the next time I go to the store, I need these ingredients to make it work, to make what I have work. And we need to focus on getting the ingredients that we're missing to make it work, to make our lives work, to make our healing work, to do the heart work. And a lot of times we miss that. We miss that mark to add the ingredients to what's already there because we assume that what's already there is just so bad and just cannot be worked out and cannot be, dealt with, that throw the baby in the bathwater away. Well, no, we don't have to do that. We can find the ingredients that are going to help make it better. We can find the ingredients that will help build this thing or build us up instead of us trying to do a complete overhaul and comparing ourselves to what the people that were responsible for us didn't do. It's not our issue. It's not our business. Those were their mistakes to make. Now we take from it what we take from it, but how long do we want to stay in that box of I am my parents' missteps before we become our own success? Who I am and who I need to be for me. Because although we were owed some things, at some point we have to take responsibility, and we're also and acknowledge that we're owed some things from ourselves. But we all know healing does not come easy. So, when we internalize destructive attitudes and during hurtful and traumatic experiences, we then strengthen the anti-self. We grow up and everything is anti us, and it encourages us to take actions that replicate the past but are damaging in the present. And because it's anti us, we never fully, what that to me means is we never fully embrace us because we are so stuck in them and what they were not and what they couldn't be and what they couldn't give us. And we don't give ourselves a chance to truly evolve and grow into who we could be because we can't shake them. And we don't realize that we're holding on to them as closely as we are, but we are, because everything in your mind says, I'm not going to make the bed this way because I didn't like the way she did it. I'm not going to do my children this way because I didn't like the way my parents did it. And that is the forethought. So we never really get the opportunity to develop into us because we're so busy trying to outrun them. Now, don't get me wrong. There are many purposes in our childhood that, serve the purpose then, but they don't serve a purpose now. I call that survivor mode. At some point in my life, I had to come out of survivor mode because I now controlled my environment. And now that I can control my environment, I don't just need to survive. I need to thrive. I need to live. The unfortunate thing is I didn't learn that lesson until later on in life. So I spent a good portion of my 20s and 30s surviving, trying to outrun what my parents didn't do, what they didn't give me, trying to give it to my children and create a life that was polar opposite to what I felt like I had. And it wasn't a waste, but it was a waste because I delayed, not denied, as Pastor Ed would say, I delayed my own evolution. I delayed my own happiness, my own growth, and stunted my development by doing that. And my life would have been probably a little different had I had the help, the ability to open my mouth and say, I'm just not, this is just not working for me. I'm struggling in this area or something. I didn't have the outlets that I needed, and healing wasn't something that was promoted. But to God be the glory, it is today, and that's what we're doing. So I have notes. Y'all know I like my notes, right? Those characteristics that we developed to survive were defenses. And when you carry that over, you become defensive in your adult life. So everything, again, perception and reception. Somebody could say something to you and it's a trigger and you're always on the defense. You always feel attacked. You always feel like you're the underdog, like you can't. And that's also a self-esteem issue. That is very much a self-esteem issue. It was our parents' duty to protect us. Some of them did that. Some of them didn't. Some of them did it the best way they knew how with what they had to work with. In our adult lives, we owe it to ourselves to go back, think about those things, heal from them, and also understand. Because at some point, we're going to need somebody to understand us. And understand that holding on to it is also getting in the way. Even parents with the best intentions have had moments of stress where they may have attuned to their children. They didn't necessarily mean for it to be that extreme, but perception and reception, we received it that way. We received it that way, and back in those days, you weren't really given the opportunity. It was facts, not feelings. You weren't given the opportunity to verbalize how those things make you feel. It just was not common. But again, that's something that now that we have some control over our environment and the direction we want to go in, that we can change. We can now open our mouth and say, I don't like that. Please don't speak to me in that manner. Or I don't receive that. Or can we discuss this at another time? Or I'm going to need you to explain that a little further. Respectfully. We now have the opportunity to do that. We need to realize that those moments, those saying those things, verbalizing those things is not just therapeutic. It also helps you heal and not internalize any new trauma. Stop it where it is. Because now I have the ability to say, nope, I'm not going to take that. I don't want it. Now, that's not to say that sometimes there are going to be things that are going to be said that you probably should receive. Be open to that as well. But at least now you have the mind to view it differently and perceive and receive it on a different level. Be open to it. But also be okay with setting boundaries that this is as far as I'm going to go with that. When you, I'm a shutdown person. So when I don't want to be bothered with something, I shut down. I withdraw. Introverted, extrovert. I enjoy being alone. But I also know that too much alone time is not good. But that is my defense mechanism. I just withdraw. I don't want to be, nope. If I want to be around people or I feel like it's, I just take a step back. But that's not always good. That is something, a characteristic that I had to work through, that I developed in childhood. Because when a situation became overwhelming or scary or uncomfortable, I was small for a child, for my age, for most of my life. I could just disappear. And then I carried that into my adult life, and I can just withdraw. I don't have to interact with anybody, but I realized that that wasn't healthy. The healthy way to deal with it um, is to set boundaries and make clear as to how much or what you're willing to take and not take. And if the situation is just not for you, then fine. By all means, excuse yourself. Don't keep yourself anywhere you don't feel safe or comfortable, but don't hide from it. That was something that I was wrong in doing. Not wrong, but it wasn't a healthy reaction. And so now I've learned to deal with those things a little bit different. But again, it was hard work. And something that I carried in from being a kid, you know, being rejected. That is also something that we pick up in childhood and it carries along with us. And so, you know, one of my other defense mechanisms was out of fear of rejection. I just didn't even try. I'm just going to stay over here in my lane and my business because I don't know how that's going to go. I've learned now through addressing my traumas, and I now have confidence because, as I said in my last podcast, that's going to be my thing, y'all. That's how I'm going into 2022. And I'm going into the room as if God sent me there. And because that's how I am learning to cope and deal with certain triggers and situations, it has strengthened me greatly. I now can pray and meditate and work myself through a lot of things. I've grown to be more confident in me because I'm no longer walking under the banner and shadow of my parents, what they did and did not do. I've now freed myself from that and am doing it my way and learning who I am and what's for me. Well, those were all great life lessons, but I still have the right, the freedom to evolve in my own way on my own terms. Uh, you know, self-sacrifice. Oh my God, that hello. You I was a person who was always willing to just give it all to make sure everybody was safe because I wanted to be the person that I needed. And I ended up giving so much of my time, my life, my finance away. And it wasn't healthy because you can be a servant, you can help people, you can give, but it should never come at the expense of you to where it takes so much away from you that you have nothing left. That is unhealthy. But again, that is something I learned in childhood, and I carried it on because I felt like if I could just please everybody, they would love me. If I could just be everything and anything for everybody and keep them happy, then they'll love me. They'll protect me. The devil is a liar. That ain't the truth. And I ended up giving so much away to people who, again, I was a child, I didn't realize they couldn't give it to me. They couldn't give me what they didn't have. And so I sacrificed all this time and effort and energy and mental capacity and money for people who couldn't give me what I needed anyway. And now I understand that I don't need to do those things to be loved or to love or to be accepted. I just don't have to, because it shouldn't hurt. Loving and being loved should not hurt. It's not supposed to. Even when it comes with correction and accountability, it still should not hurt. But you have to first learn healthy ways to love and engage before you can understand that. And these are things that we don't know. And as the title of this is, these are characteristics and traits that we carry from childhood, trying to outrun, outlive, outdo our parents' mistakes and the mistakes of those we feel that were supposed to protect us and teach us that they didn't do. And it's important that, we address these things head on. The concept of defenses is the ultimate illustration of the fact that very often our own worst enemy lies within us. That is a quote from Lisa Firestone. She's a PhD, and I read Psychology Today all the time because I want really good references and information and resources to, go behind what I'm speaking about. And it is ironic that the very defenses that saved us emotionally so long ago are now robbing us, you hear that, of our lives today. We have to be aware, be willing to do the work, be willing to see it, and know and understand that what originally helped us as an adaptation to a difficult situation is temporary. We are not supposed to hold on to that. It is not supposed to be permanent. It has to evolve. It can't stay at the elementary, intermediate level. It needs to evolve. And if it doesn't evolve, it ends up trapping us and holding us hostage. A lot of us are walking around still covered in the armors of our childhood, the defense mechanisms that we created, and not realizing that it's okay to get rid of that. Because again, even armor has to evolve. The armor that fit me at 3 didn't fit me at 23. Won't fit me at 33. And it sure doesn't fit me now at 43. With the COVID weight and all that, it just didn't help. So some things have to go and they have to evolve. They have to grow. And when we do that, we get rid of the false identities and deceptive layers of protection. The things we created so that the people couldn't see us, because we don't have to hide. We can be okay with our evolution. We can be okay when we're at the elementary level, the intermediate level, and so on and so forth, because it's your evolution to have. You don't owe anybody anything. The goal is so that you can be healthy within yourself. The goal is so that you can be the best you can be, so that you can thrive and not just survive. But if we keep holding on to those things that we believe hurt us, our perception and reception from childhood, and we don't let those things go, then we are holding ourselves hostage at this point. Being concerned with how people feel about you, how they feel about the things you're doing in your life, That's elementary school. Because what my grandma used to say, and I'm just going to have to say it, what they eat don't make you poop. Period. That's it. Everybody is not going to embrace you. Everybody is not going to like you. Everybody is not going to hear you, see you. Let that be okay with you. You are okay being you, the you were meant to be. And as long as you get up every day and you try to be the best you can be, you're not intentionally being malicious or harmful to anyone. Your life choices are yours. You have to live with those. Nobody has to live with this body, this skin, none of it but me. And I need to be happy in it. I need to thrive in it. I need to be able to genuinely smile and not worry about what the next person is thinking. But in order for me to get to this place, I had to shed some things. I had to let some things go. I had to get rid of that armor from, when I was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I had to get rid of those defense mechanisms that I used to survive junior high and high school. I had to get rid of that armor that I used to cover myself and protect myself from the guilt, hurt, and shame of being a sexual assault victim. I had to loose myself of all those things because they were defining me and they were suffocating the me that I was truly meant to be. And I lost a lot of time doing that. But I refuse to stay in that place any longer. And I am grateful because I broke out of that shell. I now have the confidence and the courage to be candid with you all and prayerfully help somebody else to get to where I am. And then we can all get together and help each other for the rest of the journey. Because it is an ongoing journey. So thank you for joining me today. Give yourself the greatest gift possible. Okay? The freedom to be who you are, the freedom to live as you choose, and break the chains from the past experiences. We are generational curse breakers. We are going to change the course of our lives and clear a good, healthy path for the next generation. So, as always, the sun rises and sets alone every day and still manages to shine. The moon rises alone every night and still manages to light someone's way. Be the light. Be your own version of the light. You are loved. You are worthy. You are capable. Live in purpose, with purpose, and on purpose. Launch the vision, sis. She emerged. The manifestation has begun. Have a great day.
Reaping season, and I shall reap the harvest of my labor as promised. I have been called,